So do me a favor really quick. Raise your hand if you've ever had to call a customer service number or hotline. Raise another hand if that call did not go the way that you wanted it to, whether it be because you were on hold too long, you couldn't understand said representative, maybe even the call was ended short, or some other odd reason. Now, while I can laugh and joke about this, being on hold, really having to deal with call centers and go that route is no laughing or joking matter. And Bigly Sales is here to really transform the narrative that's around that. They're really here to, one, be able to bring in artificial intelligence to make time of the essence. There's nothing like feeling like your time is being wasted. There is nothing like feeling like you've been on hold for hours, weeks, years, just to have a conversation that went 2 to 3 minutes that could have really just been automated much quicker. So Bigly Sales is really here to not only do that, but also really give customers a unique experience. They want to make sure that whenever you're calling, whenever you're reaching out, that it's not something that you're apprehensive about. It's not something that frustrates you, but rather it's something that you look forward to because you know time and time again, your problem will be solved. So without further ado, enjoy episode 190. Can you hear me now? All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner. Look, recently we've been getting a lot of feedback from our audience just about the content that we've been bringing to the forefront about people who we've been talking to, about some of the discussions we've been having. So I'm glad to hear that y'all are just as entertained, just as locked in, just as amused as I have been. And I feel like this discussion today will be no different than that. I feel like I'm talking about something that's been a lot in the news, a lot on social media, a lot in just emails and articles when it comes to AI and just the transformation that it's really had since immersing itself. But something that I've kind of touched on in my previous episodes about AI is that and even something that I had to admit myself, was that I didn't really realize how prevalent it was before it really became a thing. And what I mean when I say that is, like, AI, we've talked to so many different people who have shown us and told us how AI has surrounded us longer than we realized, how it's been around for quite some time, but maybe we just didn't pinpoint it to what exactly it was. So I'm excited now just to see how, the media kind of puts it one way and tries to fear monger a little bit and tries to steer you away from it. But I'm excited just because we've talked to so many people who educate us on it and who really explain the benefits of it, explain the pros behind it, explain how it can be beneficial to you, your business, your product, and your service. And I know that Tom is going to be no different with that today, but also here to tell you about, what he does a little bit. So before we dibble and dabble into all of that, Tom, first question, most important question, how are you? How's everything on your end?
I'm doing fantastic. So thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Nah, thank you for joining us. I'm definitely always excited to sit down with a like-minded business owner, entrepreneur, or creative. So I know we're going to have some people tapping in from your network. I know we're going to have my network tapping in, but we're going to have my favorite of those as well. And those are the newcomers. Those are the people who probably know nothing about us, but somehow in translation came across this episode. And I'm just as grateful and as thankful for them too. So to bring everybody up to speed, to put everybody on an even playing field, can you, one, just tell us a little bit about yourself? And then can you, two, just tell us what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today?
Sure. So I'm the CEO and founder of Bigly Sales. What we're doing at Bigly is we're replacing call centers with AI. Call centers have a bunch of issues with them that are kind of intrinsic to them. It's really hard hiring and training and retaining good people. If you've ever tried to run an in-house sales team, I'm sure you can relate with that. And if it's inbound calls, you always are trying to measure that volume, make sure you have the right amount of people in seats. And if you get it wrong, you have people holding on, sitting on hold, you have leads dropping off. If you have too many, your guys are twiddling their thumbs, getting paid for, just sitting around, and you're paying them all, right? Neither one is ideal for a business. So what we did is we replaced the whole call center with AI. It combines text and voice, and it can do it, 80 to 90% cheaper.
I like that. We love efficiency, working smarter, not harder, for sure. But I definitely do think in this day and age, as someone who has worked around a plethora of different sales within industries, you can definitely see those that, are putting in the work or making things happen. And then those that are, twiddling the thumb, sometimes just taking up space, sometimes not exactly as adamant as we would like them to be. So the first thing I hear that I kind of want to get into that I'm a bit more curious about was the replacement part. And something that is kind of, I feel like the connotation that has come with AI time and time again is the fear of it, is that it's taking away jobs, is that it's hindering the workforce, is that it's essentially taking away from what me, what you, what we would like to do moving forward, and putting this in the hands of robots, as we call it. Now, obviously, I'm kind of speaking from an audience perspective. I'm more so speaking from what I've been told, what has been communicated to me, some of just the opinions and stereotypes that people kind of have. So, with the sales industry, with what you are doing, why, as you kind of already explained in some capacity, but why should people embrace the replacement of what we have now with artificial intelligence? Is this something that people should be nervous about, be wary about? Is this something that is just being done from an efficiency perspective and standpoint? What, from your side of things, for how you've seen it, for how you've even replaced it, how has it really worked, and what should people know about it that really don't have an idea about
So I want to fix the call center. I can tell you as a consumer, I don't know a lot of folks who love calling into a place like Comcast or AT&T or, the local power company. It's not a good experience. You have to go through what I call IVR hell, right? You got this IVR system where it's, for this, press one, for this, press two, for this, press three. And it takes 2 minutes to go through. And God forbid you hit the wrong button or something, or, you're like, none of those choices seem right to me. Why can't I just ask you a question? So the AI, you can just go and say, hey, I got a problem with my bill. And it says, oh, hold on a second, Tom, I'll help you out with that. Right. The AI can replace that whole nightmarish system that every large company uses today. And what's that going to do? That's going to give you your time back. Um, so what people are seeing with AI is it's reducing their time on the phone dramatically. They're getting their questions answered much, much faster. So it's a much better customer experience. You got a lot happier people at the end of it. And they're happier because one, they're getting better information. And two, they're not wasting nearly as much time. So if I can save every person in America 10, 20, 30 minutes a day of their time that they get back, that they've been sitting on hold to play with their kids or do something that they love, or just not sit on hold with the call center, right? Because there's a problem with your bill, I think that's a lot of value that's being added to every single person in America.
I would
So,
definitely have to agree with you, because as someone who, I can't even tell you how many hours of my life I would love back from sitting on hold for just a simple 2 to 3 minute conversation sometimes, or 5 to 10 minute conversation. I know some people listening probably been on hold so long, you put the phone on speaker, you start doing other things, you start moving around, you just hear that music playing, you even probably start humming the music a little bit yourself. So it just becomes one of those things that can be painstaking for sure.
it's the worst. And do you ever get it where you're doing something else and the person's like, hello, hello, click
Right.
after you've been on hold
And
for
then
45 minutes and you're like, God, you know,
you got to start that all over. Yes,
yeah.
definitely. That has happened to me for sure, especially with airlines, but we won't even get into all of
But
that for too.
all of them, it
Yeah.
can be able to go handle that request, route it to the right place, real
Mhm.
time, right internally. It doesn't actually route it. So, it's just
Right.
grabbing the right API. We're in the back end. We have a bunch of different APIs set up. Say, hey, if they're talking about this, we want to send them over here to a booking prompt. If we do this, we want to send them over here to a rescheduling prompt, right? If they're calling about a refund, we want to send them over here to the refund prompt. That's probably not going to happen if you're calling an airline, right? We're going to deny your refund for this reason here. Um, but you know, we can set that up so that happens in a fraction of a second on the back end where you don't see it, and it's not like, oh, you got the wrong person. Hold on, we're going to put you on hold for another 15 minutes. Um, from a business perspective, what this allows you to do, hiring is really hard. So I don't know if you've run call centers before, even small ones, 5 or 10 sales reps, 20 sales reps, something like that. Um, Man, it's really hard. And the hardest part is the staffing and the training. I was talking to someone yesterday and they told us we hire 60 to keep 40 by the end of the first week, right? Because a third of them don't show up, don't work out, never take a phone call, right? And that's standard. That's standard in call centers. Um, and then the guy shows up and then they don't, they end up quitting after 2 weeks, or, they realize it was too far from home. Whatever happens, they just can't handle the phone calls. They're not very good at it. So one of the bigger call center companies that I know, I was talking to the owner and he was telling me we have a script at the top of the screen. So the person can say word for word everything they have to say, And I'm going, how is that different than an AI? Except they're charging you $20 an hour for guys in northern Mexico. And, we're charging a small fraction of that. So we'll save them 80 or 90% on their costs by doing it this way. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. It just keeps leveling up, so it's like, you know, it's hard getting a couple of employees really good, right? Trying to get your whole floor really good is virtually impossible. So this gets, every call at the highest possible level. And today is as bad as it's ever going to be. It's only getting better every day. What I'm doing, what everyone else is doing, everything is just improving with the AI so much, so fast. It's really mind bending.
Absolutely. And I definitely do love I love talking to so many people within the space because they've really gone to not only show but prove the efficiency of what this has done, of like you said, the time saved, time given back, even probably money and revenue earned as a result of that. So I do love that, just because I think sometimes what we're not realizing is that while it's not really something that we should fear. And even I was somebody who, I wouldn't necessarily say I feared it, but I was naive to it. I didn't really research it. I didn't really look into it because I just felt like it was everywhere. It was a lot happening. I don't really like picking up things when everybody is kind of talking about it, when it's become a big fad, when it's all in the news, when it's all in the headlines, because that's when I feel like it's the most coming to it. That's when I feel like you get all the opinions, all the knowledge. Everybody has a think piece. Everybody kind of wants to put it out there just the same.
So you
So
didn't buy a Peloton, is what you're telling me?
I did not buy a Peloton, unfortunately, no. But I know some people who are active and proud users and supporters of their Peloton. So, but no, I did not feed into that hype just the same. So, from your perspective, from seeing what Big Lee Sales has done, from coming into business with them and doing all of that, do you feel like this change, this transformation, what AI is doing within the sales realm, do you feel like it's being embraced by industries? Do you feel like there are some industries who are kind of just still wanting to do their own thing, or do you feel like kind of once you give them the explanation, maybe even a presentation, maybe even sit down and do a consultation, do you feel like people become more open to it once they see what it can really do and the power that it can bring to the business?
From my perspective, everyone I talk to at a big company is doing it or looking at it, right? Not necessarily for this piece of sales, but for something. And you asked about jobs. If your job is taking data from one computer and putting it into another computer, your job's in trouble, right? You know, if your job is taking an email that came in and then manually entering the stuff from that email into a computer system, your job's in trouble. I mean, those are the sort of things that the AI is going to be able to replace very easily. But it's not like, hey, a car came out, so you don't need legs anymore. There's still going to be plenty of stuff for people to do. It's just going to be different things. So the lowest level jobs, kind of the simplest jobs that have to be done, that are pretty manual and repetitive right now, that we haven't been able to automate. Those are going to get automated by this. That's what I see. A manual, repetitive job. I'll tell you the ending. The AI is going to win, right? It's going to be better. It's going to be better at driving. It's going to be better at flying. It's going to be, better at customer support for sure. It's probably going to be better at sales, at scheduling, at those things. It's not going to forget. It's not going to, it's not like me where I forget to put something on the calendar and I'm like, oh God, I had to do this. And let me call that guy, right? It's going to do it. It's going to do it in an automated fashion. It's never going to forget. It's going to follow up when it's supposed to follow up. It's going to do whatever we program it to do. So I mean, that is what I see with it. Every company is doing this. Every big, I'm not talking about, Joe Schmo's shop down the street, right, where there's three guys that work there. But anyone with 100+ employees, I guarantee you they're looking at this right now, and it's coming. And the guys I know who are doing it, they're saving millions.
Time is money. Money is time. So I definitely do understand that, and I feel like even for when AI really started to become a discussion, I think years ago, I think even somewhat within the pandemic and things like that. And I even to see the advancement now in just a few years. Yeah, like you said, in the end, the AI is going to win. It's only, and I've talked to even people who are saying, look, don't neglect it, don't reject it, embrace it, because at the end of the day, it's either going to help you, or in some cases it may replace you. Like you said, there are certain jobs, there are certain functions that are going to be easier to just automate, easier to just throw that replacement in there, easier to be able to do that just the same. But there, like you said, there are companies who, even if they're not necessarily implementing it right now, even if they're not necessarily doing it, using it, they're looking to it. There may be trialing it, they're erroring it, but they may be doing consultations. They may be seeing how it worked, maybe for other counterparts, or speaking with other people in the business. So at the end of the day, without it happening per se, it's circulating. There's ideas there are people still talking about it. Now I want to talk about Bigly specifically. So would you say that this company started as a direct result of personal experience? Was it problems that you were noticing within the industry that you just kind of wanted to combat? How did Bigly really come to be what it is today? I'm always very interested in the journey and the story, but obviously there was a prevalent problem here. There was an obvious problem here that is still existing to this day. So where did really Bigly come into play, and how have they been able to grow to be so successful?
So I started in the staffing industry, and I was in the staffing industry really from the time I was about 14. My family was in that industry. I grew up in that industry. Um, and I started, dealing with our CRM kind of right when it got introduced. And then there was a project internally to revamp the CRM system, and I got pulled into that project, and I kind of got my first taste of CRMs. And then when I launched a business of my own back in, 2007 or 8 now, um, we built out all of our own tech internally, which is a mistake, by the way. Don't do that. Um, get a SaaS for like $10 a month or $20 a month instead. Like, don't try building it all yourself. Unless you're massive, it's going to be way cheaper. And there's a really steep learning curve. Um, that being said, I got really interested in that, and then I ran the staffing company. We went to 10 to 15 million a year. We were running 10 to 15 million bucks a year for about a decade, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. So I ended up leaving the company that I founded, and I started this. And the initial idea was to create a CRM system that had all of your texts, all of your emails, all of your phone calls there, so you could track everything that was happening. And our initial model was just going to be a usage based model where people could use it as much or as little as they wanted. And the idea was to get rapid adoption based on that model. Well, it didn't really work. We were, I can tell you all the mistakes I made along the way if you want, but believe me, there's plenty of them. Um, what we found out with the people using our system is a lot of them just wanted to send out texts. They wanted to send out, I have 10,000 people that are clients. I want to text them all something. Right. And they would go and they would, click a button. They would send these guys all texts. And then we had to figure out, okay, how do we handle all the text coming in? So if I send out 1,000 texts, you're going to get 1,000 responses. You're going to get 1,000 responses within 15 minutes of each other. How are you going to handle that? Right. So we had all these things. Well, let's create little templates that are saved where I can click one button and then just hit send. Right. So I have my 4 or 5 responses that are canned because those are going to handle 98% of the use cases. You know, let's have opt outs for anyone who, has said, hey, please remove me. We need to be able to opt out. So, one click to opt someone out. Right. Some people wouldn't say unsubscribe. People would say go F yourself, blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, you don't want to keep texting that person. You don't. The last thing you want is to have some spam reports or to have some junk reports or people complaining about your business because they might just turn off you altogether, right? Because the phone companies can be very punitive these days. So, we would want to be able to unsubscribe people. We figured out all this stuff along the way, and I kept seeing problems with it. People would send out 1,000 messages, and they would get all these responses back, and they wouldn't answer them for a week. They wouldn't answer them for 3 or 4 days. So you send a text, the guy responds back to you 3 minutes later, and then you get back to him a week after he does. Right? That's not a good business process. So we were talking, how do we automate this stuff? How do we? And we'd people doing calls. There's again with all of these things, we got to watch users doing it for probably a year and a half before we started getting into the AI. So, for a good long time, I got to watch a lot of people using it. We were using it ourselves internally. Um, and when the AI came about, when what ChatGPT started, when I saw what they were doing, it just said, we can use this to fix every issue we have. We can respond to everything instantly. We can respond using real language. We don't have to use the same canned responses every time someone asks a question. We can answer that question. If someone asks it in Swahili, I can answer in Swahili, right? We can deal with the language issues we have. Like everything it solved everything. Literally every problem that I saw, this solved. It can solve the people that are sending out stuff in broken English. It can solve the time issues. All of it was solvable. So we made the decision to pivot over to the AI and to do not only the SMS but the voice. The voice was very challenging. It was, challenging to stand that up, more so than the texts, because the big issue is just like this. When I stop talking, you can kind of figure out that I've stopped. But the AI, sometimes it doesn't really know, right? So, how to figure one, the latency, how to get that latency down to under a second, and then how to, and then to make sure it understands who stopped talking and all that jazz. So, I mean, there was a lot of big technical challenges with it, but now that we have it up and running, the demand is very high. I mean, almost every good sized company that we talk to is interested in at least demoing it, and we're talking to a couple Fortune 500s here.
I like that, and I like sometimes that curiosity. It will breed even more curiosity, or you see kind of what's going on there. Those trial errors, those trial runs will get you to there. So I like how you kind of implemented in there that there are certain things that the AI can't pick up on too, because that's another point that I wanted to kind of touch on. We speak a lot to the benefits, the pros, but we also realize that even as human beings, even obviously to be replaced, to have things automated, whereas we're not perfect. Also, these models aren't necessarily perfect, which is why there's so many different chat GPT versions and things like that.
It's so far from perfect, I can't even tell you. Like right now, if you don't have if you don't have some sort of thing feeding the data in, it's like you're talking to an amnesia patient, right? So it's like when I was talking to my grandmother, when she had amnesia, she would remember the first couple of minutes, but then you'd start, the next conversation, she'd forget everything that you just said after 5 minutes. So, that's really the same way ChatGPT works and Claude and all these other ones work. Now, they have a pretty big context window where they'll remember a good amount of what you just said these days. But unless you program it to feed in data, you're talking to someone with no memory. It doesn't think. It's autocomplete. It's not taking over in its current form. I'm not going to say 100 years down the road, we don't have something that actually thinks and is thinking all the time. But what we have today is a computer program. You give it an input, it gives you an output. What they did is they trained it on the whole internet. So why we have this breakout today and we didn't have it 10 or 15 years ago, and it's not 10 or 15 years in the future, why it's happening now and not in 2050 or 2010, is that we finally have enough computing power to actually go and run these models, that they look at everything that's ever been written. They, train these things. I saw one I saw the other day was trained on 15 trillion data points or something ridiculous. And, basically the whole internet. And, you know, then you can ask it any question, it'll give you an answer. It's guessing what the next word is. So it works like Google, right? So if you ever put something in Google and you put in restaurants and the first thing pops up is near me and the next one's reviews, right? That's how the AI works. It's just guessing what's the next word in that string. It's literally working that exact same way. It's the same AI that Google was using for the last 10 years. It's just way more powerful, right? Doing the exact same thing. What are the most common things that people say after this? Here's how we string it together. So
I feel like you may have more of a sales scope when answering this next question, but I'm curious, just generally speaking. So you can speak to kind of bigly, or you can speak just in general. Is there anything to be wary about when it comes to AI, when it comes to just thinking about the future, when it comes to thinking about the capabilities that this software has, that this program has? Or is there anything that people should be cautious about? Is there anything in sales even that Bigly has to kind of watch out for or kind of tread lightly with when it comes to implementing the software into what you do?
Um, I mean, not so much for implementing the software. With AI as a whole, what scares me isn't the AI. What scares me is the people using the AI, right? That's the scary thing. It's a computer. You give it an input, it's going to give you an output. But this is like a gun, right? If I point the gun at something and I shoot, it's going to shoot a bullet at it. So you can blame the gun or you can blame the person using the gun, but the gun's not killing anyone without that person. So with the AI, I think about it the same way. I actually did some YouTube videos on this stuff. There's a couple of things. Misinformation, whatever data you feed into it, however you train that model, that's what it's going to spit out. So if I put on here, Hitler is the greatest thing since sliced bread and everyone should love Hitler, well, the AI is going to write that, right? If I write that in, it's going to spit that out. Now, maybe ChatGPT has put some guardrails now, or if Claude has put some guardrails against, like, don't say nice things about Hitler. Hitler was terrible. Killing people is wrong. It's, but whatever someone puts in, it's going to spit out whatever that information is. Communism is great and capitalism is evil, right? If you put that in, that's what it's going to spit out. So you got to be very careful about that from a misinformation standpoint. Um, that it's garbage in, garbage out. So that's number one. Number two, you can create so much content that looks real now using different personas, using different voices. You can say, talk in this voice, talk using these characteristics, talk like you're an expert in the field that has been studying microbiology for the last 40 years. And you can have it write, you know, an unlimited amount of comments. So you could literally comment on every post on Twitter or every post on Facebook. Well, if I set up, I don't know, 10,000 bots, and now I'm going to comment 1,000 times a day, and I'm going to reply 1,000 times a day to things, right? We say, okay, so I got 2,000 times 10,000, right? So we're going to have 20 million comments. Let me add another zero. Let me make it 200 million comments. There's no cap to what you can do. So I could be half the. You could literally be half the comments on X. You could be half the tweets on X. If you want to start moving the needle on something, right? You can start overwhelming what the other people are doing on the internet and do it in an automated fashion. um, Again, this is why it's going to win in sales as well. It's the same thing. If I have 10 reps, getting 20 reps is really hard. Getting to 200 reps is almost impossible. It's not something I can do in a day or two. I need a huge budget. I need, unbelievably difficult. If I run my AI, it's a quick sale. And, I say, okay, day one, we made $1,000. Well, let's double it. We double it. We made $2,000. Let's go up by 10. Okay, we made $15,000. Let's go up by 10 again. Okay, we made $120,000. Let's go up by 10 again. Okay, we made $1.2 million. You can start scaling like this. You can go, okay, we're going to go from 1,000 calls a day to 1,000,000 calls a day to 1 billion calls a day. Conceivably, you could do that using the AI. There's no cap, there's no limit. So if you have something that's working, you can scale it infinitely, almost instantaneously in weeks instead of years. This is going to print billionaires left and right. This is going to make, you're going to have companies with 5 guys doing $1 billion in revenue because of the power of these tools.
Money talks, man. So I'm sure some eyebrows are raising as they're listening to this too. So to keep it along the lines of what you guys are doing specifically over there,
Yeah, I can go into more scary stuff if you want. I'm not even talking about it making viruses or
right,
manipulating viruses, gain of function
for sure.
stuff, put it on weapons, put it on drones, put it on a flying gun.
But I think it also always goes to speak to the what it boils down to is always the user. We can have all of this information, we can have all of this power, all of this medicine, all of these things that are disposal. It's up to how we create it or recreate it or restructure it or format it or everything like that.
There was an interesting story where they went and they said, let me find the most helpful compounds, right, for medicine. And they were using this. And it came up with all these new compounds, tens of thousands. And then they said, what happens if we flip the switch and do it the other way? And said, well, what are the most harmful compounds? They changed it from, one to a zero or zero to a one. And it came up with like tens of thousands of harmful compounds, one of which was VX gas. But that wasn't even near the top of the list, right? But it's maybe one of the most toxic substances we know on planet Earth. So again, it's just, do you want to find the good things or do you want to find the bad things? It's literally who's on the other side of the keyboard is what matters, not you know not the tool itself. So I can drive a car to get my whole family on vacation, or I can drive a car into a crowd of people. It's hopefully people aren't using it for malicious purposes, and God forbid, other things you got to watch out for. Um, I think this is important if you're talking about what to watch out for. Scams are going to go through the roof with this. That it used to be that if you heard my voice, you would kind of know it's me. Well, now I can clone a voice exactly. So I get a call from my daughter here a couple of times a week. If I get a call, Daddy, I'm scared. They've kidnapped me. They're saying send over $100,000 right now, or they're going to kill me. Daddy, please. Are you going to say, wait a minute, let me hang up and call back and see if this is real? Or, what do you do? Right? Call her on the other line, see if she's there. But you almost have to these days. They're doing these scams that the scams have been around forever, but now they can do it with your voice. They can do it with your kid's voice. They can do it from things they found you got a 15-second clip from the internet. I can take that and create a pretty much perfect copy of your voice that someone isn't going to know isn't you. Certainly.
It's always crazy to see like kind of what you spoke to at the end there about like clips like that. Like whereas people who have spoken a lot, they kind of just take them saying all different types of things and they formulate a sentence across the whole thing.
But no. This is even worse. I can take a clip of your voice, 15 seconds, and we can stick it into 11 Labs. And I can use that for my videos if I want to. I can say, hey, I'm going to do an ad. I'm going to use your voice in the ad because I think, Tamara's got a wonderful voice. He sounds amazing. Right. So I can use that clip if I want of your voice with 15 seconds. I don't need the exact word. I just need the intonation of your voice. So it doesn't need to get, it's not like piecing together every word like those old letters, where they would, in the movies, the ransom movies, they'd cut out the letters from the newspaper and stuff like that, and they'd write it out.
Right.
You don't need to do that. You just need to listen to you speak for 15 seconds. And with that 15 seconds, boom, then clone whatever. Again, beautiful for many things and terrifying at the same time. So, there's the up and the down. But all in all, I think this is going to be the biggest boost of productivity the world has ever seen. It's going to completely transform how businesses operate, and it's coming faster than any other innovation that we've ever seen.
Okay,
by leaps and bounds.
I'm liking it. Yeah, I definitely can tell just from how much I've seen ChatGPT update their software to other companies come out with their own software. How I didn't even realize Bing had one. I was just doing some scrolling and some research the other day, and so it's so interesting to see how this is just being implemented across multiple facets now, multiple sites, multiple streams. So something I always love to do is tap in my audience, my newcomers, my loyal and true, and just people in general as to what they can expect for a personal experience. So for somebody coming across this episode, for somebody interested in Bigly and what you do, whether it just be to get a consultation, really just to hear more, maybe you touched on something in this episode that they want to kind of expound on or explore a little bit more. What can people expect when working with Bigly, when reaching out to Bigly, whether it be for a consultation, whether it just be to get more information, or whether it even be to take on the products and the services that you offer? What can they gain from that experience?
So if you want to play with our AI, you can give it a call, right? You can give it a call, you can talk to it, you can see how it works. You just go to our website and there's a talk to us now button, and it'll take you to a phone number where you can call it and you can play with it. So you can literally see how that will work. And then we just customize the journey for whatever they need. So some things that we're doing that are different from a lot of people is we're setting up a sequence of calls and texts. Because what we found is it's really effective mixing both. It's a very human thing. If you fill out a lead form, and we're doing everything in a TCPA compliant way, right? We didn't get into this, but the short version is the trial lawyers are going to start crucifying small businesses who call consumers without their consent. Coming 2025, the rule changes are going into effect where it's going to be really cut and dry. If you didn't fill out a form for that exact company that's calling you, they're not allowed to call you. And if they call you twice, they're in violation of the TCPA. You can sue them, you will win. And then when you win, your name will go on the known litigant list, and everyone is going to try to avoid you like the plague. Right? Which you might want. I mean, maybe you want that. So, um, anyway, that's all coming. That's all coming down the pike. With Bigly, what we can do is we can customize that journey whatever you want. So we mix in calls and texts. We can say, hey, I'm your rep. I'm going to be giving you a call in a minute. And then we call. People are way more likely to pick up if they got that text first. And then we can say call them 3 times in the first half hour, and if they don't pick up, call them once a day for the next 3 months.
Wow.
And the AI will go to town. It'll do it. It'll try different times a day. If they text back or if they respond, it'll immediately respond back to them. Within a minute, it'll respond back to them. We actually have a little delay on there so it doesn't feel weird. We put in that like 45-second delay just so people aren't like, what?
Honestly, I think you were even reading my mind a little bit. That was something that I was going to kind of ask you too. Has there ever been like a apprehension or like a drawback that people may not be may kind of be weirded out or may not feel as though like they're getting that genuine human connection or interaction, or is this
I
so?
mean, do you feel a genuine human interaction with your Comcast representative when you talk to them? Are you like, man, we should go out and have beers after? Like,
It depends. It depends how well they solve my issue.
and they're in a different part of the country, or
Right. Right.
I mean, most of the guys you're talking to, they're in the Philippines, they're in Pakistan, they're in India, right? So, I mean, how much of a connection do you have with the guy in India that you talk to?
Fair enough. Very fair.
I mean, that's most of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think people just want their problem solved as
Right.
quickly and as efficiently as possible, and that's what we're providing.
Okay.
Every once in a while, someone who has a weird accent or the phone isn't very clear, or they're in a very loud place, maybe the AI has some trouble hearing them. But again, if I'm in an airport or a train station and I'm on a phone call with my wife, she might have trouble hearing me, or I might have trouble hearing her. Like that's what happens if you're outside. If I'm at the forum or whatever, I'm at Madison Square Garden, right? Guys are gonna have trouble hearing me. So in a normal environment, it works very well. Some people call in to mess around with it, right? They see the ad and they kind of mess around with it a little bit. But in the most part, do they know it's not a human? Yeah, they can tell it's not a human. Do they care? Not really. I mean, if I need to get someone scheduled to fix my leaky toilet, or to fix my roof that broke, or to get my health insurance, do I really care who I'm talking to as long as they do a good job? And what I've found, the answer is no.
Very fair points, and I do agree with you. Even sometimes I think it's more so about why I'm calling than necessarily who I'm speaking to or who I'm calling to speak to. Because I've had 9 times out of 10, if you can just do what I'm asking or do what I'm looking for in some form or fashion, got it, get it good.
Yeah.
I don't really care who's handling it. I got you. So
Here's what I want. I don't want to sit on hold. I don't want to have an IVR system. I sure as hell don't want to get transferred to 3 or 4 different people.
Right.
Right. And I want them to have the right information.
Yeah.
And the AI fixes all of those issues from a consumer standpoint. So again, we're just giving everyone back their time. You're getting back, I don't know how often you have to call stuff, but we're giving you back that 20, 30, 40 minutes a week that, you can walk everywhere, but I'd rather drive the car.
Well said, well played. I love it. So, okay. Before we get into like last words, last remarks, anything of the sort, you kind of foreshadowed some things already, but I want to just see if there's anything else out there that we can kind of have our blinkers up for or look out for on the radar when it comes to just the rest of the year, even the remaining future outlook for Bigly and what you guys are trying to do. Is there anything out there that newcomers, even myself, following along the journey now, people who will be hearing this in some capacity, is there anything that we should be on the lookout for? Is there anything that you guys are debuting this year? Anything with obviously without spoiling anything, we don't want to reveal anything that hasn't hit the forefront or hasn't hit the table yet, but always just curious to know what people can be expecting when tapping into you guys for the first time. So
Well,
anything you guys are looking forward to?
we're constantly building. We're always building out new use cases for folks. So we have a support use case that works pretty well. We have a scheduling use case that works pretty well. We have a live transfer use case that works pretty well. Right? Somebody needs to speak to. We can have the AI gather the basic information, and then after they've gone through the basic information, like for an insurance or something like that, we're going to transfer you to the live agent for the last 5 minutes of the call. Right? Where you need a licensed agent at the end of that process. For anything like financial services, we can send out invoices. We can send out Stripe links to pay. We can have the AI sit on the phone while someone is paying something, walk them through that process. Right. So we're doing a bunch of cool things with the AI from that standpoint. Really, most of the stuff that I'm working on is we're going to make it so you don't even notice it's an AI. We're going to make that AI, I think, a higher quality than the human reps that you deal with. Where when you call in, we're going to know, hey, this is Tamar. This is who Tamar likes to speak with. This is the tone that you're supposed to use with Tamar. This is what works well with him. Right. So all the time you're getting someone that you really enjoy talking to and you have a really good experience. It's my goal to improve everyone's experience. Every time you call, it's, wow, that was great. And they answered all my questions. I have everything I need. And they did it in a format where, it worked really well for my personality, that it will be customized to you. Just like when you go on Instagram or Facebook, right? Your feed is all stuff like designed just for you. It knows what you like. We're going to do that same thing where you go to the call center, the person that you're talking to is going to be designed just for you. So, that's one of the big things that I'm working on. That's going to be a multi-year project.
And obviously people always love a personable approach. People always love feeling like they're that VIC, very important customer consumer. So I definitely am interested and excited to see that too. I may even have to play around with the demo a little bit myself, just figure out some things.
We're not there yet. We're not that. I mean, that's down the pike.
Sure. Oh, for
That's,
sure.
that's a 2025, 2026 kind of problem. Right now, what we're doing is we're getting all the training data.
Gotcha.
So we have, I'd have to count now, but 20 or 25 different voices that we're using. We give it a different persona. We give it an age,
Nice.
and a voice. And like we try to make it as human as possible.
Okay.
So we say, you speak like you're a 60-year-old man from, Seattle, or you sound like you're from Alabama or whatever, or you have a Hispanic accent, or you have, whatever it may be. And then we're doing, so I need to get a voice for every country in South America because I mean, the Brazilians don't want to talk to an Argentinian or the Mexicans definitely don't, so like, everyone wants to talk to someone from their own country and,
Got you.
um, stuff like that, like fun little things like that,
Gotcha.
that we're playing with. So what's going to be, and then we're doing different personality types, different selling techniques that it's going to use. So it's going to pick up right now we're just getting all that data that we have, I don't know, 20 or 30,000 different combinations of things for the calls. So each call, what we're working on is getting people different things. Then we're going to ask, hey, do you like the guy that you're talking to? Do you spoke to this rep? Were you happy with them? If they say no, we make sure we give them a different one next time. And if they're very happy, maybe we give them the same person. We're still figuring that all out. So how to do that. But, once we have, 50 or 100 million kind of reps on this, I think we'll have some really good data to play with.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm loving it. I'm looking forward to that too, and I'm sure that people will be tapping in. I got people joining us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram Live, and then people who will be hearing this too. So I'm definitely excited to follow that journey just the same. Now, before we wrap up, before we tell everybody where they can find you, the websites, consultation, all that information, do you feel like there's anything that we have not touched on today that you want to leave the people with, whether it be last words, whether it just be final thoughts, even some motivation out there for other salesmen, business owners, entrepreneurs, anything at all?
Yes. So I'm going to give the same advice I gave to my 10-year-old daughter and to all the kids I know who are getting out of college or getting out of high school. Go and learn AI. Go start playing around with Claude or ChatGPT today. Um, you having trouble doing something on your computer? Go to Claude or ChatGPT. Right? There's something you need to do it. You don't know how to do it. And you're like, how the hell do I do this thing? Go to Claude. Go to ChatGPT. Ask it how to do it. It'll tell you how to do it. You need to code something. Ask it how to do it. But just start playing around with that. What you're going to find out is you become 5, 10, 20 times as effective as the next guy. It almost gives you superpowers to do things. It's like what I used to do. I need to do something around the house, right? And I don't know how to do it. And I say, okay, let me go to YouTube and see if I can find a video, right? And then I got to find, look around. And usually, if it's something I can find a video on, and may or may not be that helpful, right? With this, it knows the answer pretty much every time. It walks you step by step instructions of how to do it, especially if it's something that's on a computer. It's magic for all the stuff that's on the computer. But if you're worried about your job, you're worried about not having skills, you're worried about, whatever, start learning this tech today. And this is like learning how to use Google, right? You punch something in and, natural words, you just say, hey, how do I do this? And it gives you the answer. So you will find yourself within a few months that you can do things that the other guys can't do. And once you start, I mean, we have tools for, data extraction, right? If I have a list with a million rows of stuff and I want to put it in a spreadsheet, there's a tool you can give it to. 20 minutes from now, it has all million things on a spreadsheet. Or if you're trying to do that by hand, I've done something like that before. I don't know how many, like hundreds of hours I wasted by hand, like trying to build this list one time for sales, back in the day. Um, but yeah, it does it automatically takes an hour, right? For images, stuff like that, check out Midjourney. Midjourney is gorgeous. Like Midjourney looks better than I do on the video right now. Right. Maybe I need a tan or something, but like Midjourney, like the images are beautiful that it comes up with. You can't tell they're AI at this point. I can tell with some of the other ones, but I won't be able to in 6 months with any of them. But Midjourney, it's just gorgeous. I like Claude better than ChatGPT right now. I just feel you get better outputs. But all of these, they have this thing where they don't like doing multi-step functions right now. So you might have to ask it one question at a time, not like, who are the 100 best athletes ever to live? Like it might give you a list. It's like, and give me their most important stat. And then it's going to break, right? Because now you're asking to do 100 different searches in one, and that's going to break it. I still find that frustrating. I want to just be able to give it like 3 or 4 levels of instructions and have it go, but that's not there yet. But it will be. This is like the internet. Y'all remember when the internet was like 14.4 modems where it started making noises at you when you went to use it? Like that's where we are with AI right now. Like that's where we are. We're at that. We're at the point where people are saying no one's ever going to use this to look at pictures on the internet. It takes 5 minutes to download a picture, right? Playboy doesn't need to put up their content on the internet. No one's ever going to use that there, And if that's how your business is thinking, we know how. I mean, we know how this ends. So you want to be early on this. You don't want to be late because I think this is coming about 10 times as fast as the internet did. Like this, you know, months feel like years. I mean, with how much things are advancing. So Midjourney for images. I like Rose AI and Phantom Buster for data extraction. Um, you can also just use ChatGPT for images. They have their own tool in there, Dolly. For LLMs, Claude is my favorite right now. There's one called Grok. There's two called Grok actually. One is by Elon Musk, um, which I haven't played around with that one that much yet. The other one, they have this chip on the back that they came out with a new chip that's spits out 500 tokens per second, which is 500 words per second, give or take, and getting faster, which is just crazy. Like, so it can write 1,000-word article in 2 seconds consistently, and that has the Mistral model behind it, which is a French LLM. And then, if you want to host your own, which I assume no one here really does, but you can get the Llama one. And if you're actually using it for a business and you're running a pretty big business, you want to control all your data. You want to make sure that ChatGPT isn't stealing it from you, that, it's staying private, that you want to do some specialized things on there. You can, you can set up your own with Llama, which is Facebook's open source that they put out there.
Okay.
And I believe Elon released all the code for Grok, all the models for Grok and the weights and all that stuff as well. So there's a ton of them. And for literally any use case you can almost think of, there's probably an AI that's pretty good. And for voice, 11 Labs, phenomenal for voices. Like just like if you're doing marketing stuff, you can, and there's a bunch. I know Adobe has some, and all the big kind of graphic design tools have some AI things. Playground AI is a good one for graphic design. And, Adobe has their whole tool set there, which is pretty good, so anyway, hopefully I wasn't babbling too much on that, but there's a ton of useful tools out there for pretty much anything that you want to do. And if you want to do your own marketing material, you can have it put together a flyer for you in a couple of seconds, and then you just need to put the words on top. And if you don't know how to do that, you can hire someone on Fiverr for like $10.
You just dropped a lot of plugs for us. So I hope those people were listening. If not, just rewind it back a little bit. That's the thing about these episodes. They're forever once they're live. So I definitely do hope that in some capacity, like he said, you were not coming late to the ball game. You're exploring, you're experimenting. He's not asking you to be an expert or anything, but just try things out. I may even start to.
It'll make you more valuable. You
Right.
will learn things, and it'll make you more valuable for any employer that you're at.
Yeah.
And if you actually sit down, and the best thing about it is you don't know how to do it, and you say, hey Claude, how should I go about doing this? I'll say, well, we can do that. You say, I don't like it. Give me another plan. Oh, we can do that one. We can try like this too. You say, okay, cool. Let's do that. Okay, now walk me through step by step. And it gives you step 1, step 2, step 3. All right, step 1, I'm a little confused. Can you play that back, and can you break that down a little more for me? Sure. All right, and then it just spits it all out. Well, here's the step by step. Gives you something you don't know how to do. I don't know how to do this piece that you said to do. Oh, you can find your files in your computer by clicking on the search bar at the bottom and then typing it in, and it should pop up the name, and you can, and it's just magic with that. So I know people who are standing up like apps in a day who don't have an engineering background. Like they're using it to write entire programs without an engineering background. I mean, I see this taking over web engineering, that you're going to do it with prompts. You're going to just tell it what you want it to do, and then give it step-by-step instructions that it gives you. And then you say, okay, that plan that you just wrote, do step 1 of that plan. Now do step 2. Now do step 3. And you have it give you the plan, and then you have it execute the plan. You just have to give it kind of step-by-step instructions still and program the whole thing. So with code, it's amazing. It's not going to be as good as an engineer from like Google with 30 years of experience.
Right.
But it's going to be better than you. It's just like
Right.
it's it's going to be, it's just like, is it going to be better than the top radiologist in the world? Maybe not, but it's going to be better than anyone who isn't a top radiologist, or the top doctor, or the top lawyer, or the top, is it better at writing than Stephen King? Debatable, right? But it's certainly better than me. So that's the way I look at it with everything.
I love it.
With everything on earth. I know some guys who were corporate counsel for Fortune 500.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of their outside counsel. save them $3 million a year because they just gave it to the legal LLM that LexisNexis just came out with.
Hmm.
They don't need outside counsel anymore because it's doing all the work for them.
Right.
And these guys are lawyers at Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for all of this stuff. So
It's definitely, like you said, it's definitely on the way. It's definitely emerging a lot quicker than what we're realizing. So it's better to get ahead of that curve as best as you, because you'll never fully be ahead of it. It's always just
no,
something that's being developed or worked on behind the scenes and everything. So, but no, I think really for what you shared today, it's been a lot of just a deeper dive, some more insight into what we can expect, and even from a sales perspective, but also just seeing how AI works just generally, because I feel like a lot of what you said here today and a lot of what Bigley is doing can also just be applied to life too, and just what we're thinking about, just being efficient about if I don't need this, if I don't have to have it this way, or if anything, or if I can automate, or if I can work a little smarter, or if I can just make the job easier, save time, save money, get those hold hours back and those minutes back. I think it'll definitely make a big difference. So one, I just want to thank you for taking the time, just for coming on here, just for obviously tailoring to my audience, but also there are going to be some people out here who you've educated, who you've motivated, who you've even kind of maybe even driven in, and maybe even now they kind of want to do some consultations or figure out what Bigley's doing, or maybe even try to start. Maybe they're even opening. Maybe they hit Control T on their laptop, and now they have a tab open with ChatGPT or Cloud, or looking for something like that. So I'm very interested to see the progression of AI. I'm very interested to see the progression of Bigley and really how it all comes together. So last but certainly not least, arguably the best part, the call to action part. Can you just tell people everywhere where they can find you, from social media to websites, if they want to kind of do the consultations, if they want to play around with the AI, everything like that? Give us everything that you got on your end.
yeah, it's bigleysales.com, like my shirt, BIGLYSALES.com. Come check it out. If you have more than 1,000 leads a month coming in, if you have a call center with more than 10 people in it, you're a good fit for what we're doing, and we'll save you a flood of money and increase conversions.
I think people love saving money and increasing conversion. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that some
Sales
people.
up, cost down.
Come on, here we go. Here we go. I may even have to make that the episode name. I'm loving that a lot. But no, Tom, seriously, for all the insight, for just everything that you've provided, for the education that you've even given me, and the question that you've answered on my end, just thank you again. I'm very excited for Down to Business to continue following along the Bigley journey and everything that you guys have going on, and obviously always here to support however we can. And just whatever you need from us, please just definitely let us know. I'm excited to get this out there to my audience just the same, but I'm even excited for the audience who tapped in and just got that knowledge and just took something away from this. And now they can kind of start to look into AI a little bit more, to realize that it's not really something to fear, and that it's really, we're the ones that are in control of it. And so if we're fearing it, it's because of how we've manipulated it or how we've recreated it to do things that it shouldn't be doing,
It's the man behind the keyboard. It's not the AI itself that you got to worry about.
For sure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate having me out here. This was great.
Good.
I had a lot. I love doing these, so
Good.
I had a lot of fun on this.
Well, there definitely will be some more in the future for sure. No, so thank you just the same. And to everybody out there who continuously taps in with us, I see some people in the IG Live comments. I definitely appreciate y'all. I love everyone. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast, here with Tamar Turner.
All right. Thank you.